Innovating Education Learning World in association with WISE, an initiative of Qatar Foundation.
This week on Learning World, we have a selection of interesting and inspiring ideas on education. We all hold memories of our school days and teachers. But what about education now? What are the needs, challenges, and hopes for the school of the future? We asked these questions and other unusual ones of some influential figures and learners as well. They came up with some interesting opinions. Let's hear what they have to say.
Love them or loathe them, teachers are milestones in our lives.
A good teacher teaches well in the class and loves all the students.
I remember my very first teacher, a young woman, and then I had an excellent teacher of history. Because of him, I wanted to become an archaeologist at those times, passionate everybody. But it's very important, incredibly important. This is the impact on every child.
Good teachers don't give too much homework, and they're nice.
¿Cuál es tu materia preferida?
I prefer maths.
Math was something that I was very happy with. I felt I just liked it a lot. The logic of math was really, really enjoyable.
I love science and mathematics. I love science because it makes me understand and learn about all parts of my body.
I went to law school to save the world, and I got to law school and I discovered that I loved business. But that's what education is about. Education opens your eyes, and all of a sudden you discover things that you didn't realize before you got to whatever it was.
The truth is, I can see the future, the futuristic school, because the crisis has made us blind.
The school of the future for little ones is the one with a lot of classrooms, where animals are allowed to be in it, or one on an island, or on a mushroom. This is a school in the shape of a mushroom. There's the lab. I got the idea while I was watching a funny television program. There are sort of magic leaves that help you get down and then help you get back up to the lab, you see?
I want to be a lawyer and help Maasai defend themselves in court when their cattle eat other people's crops.
I think I would learn anthropology. Not economics, I've had enough of that. Not law, I've had enough of that. Not political science. Anthropology, which I think is what I need probably to understand a bit better the world we live in.
While educators are racing to meet the Millennium Development Goals by 2015, it is still estimated that 70 million children remain out of school. What are the obstacles on the road to educating every child? What can the international community do to achieve this target? The former British Prime Minister Gordon Brown suggests a global fund on education. Now for more on this and other issues.
Learning World met Gordon Brown, the former British Prime Minister, at Geneva during the UN Economic and Social Council 2011.
Mr. Brown, in your report, there is education emergency in the poorest countries. What is needed to achieve Millennium Goals?
We made a promise in 2000. The promise was that every child be in school. If by 2015 we don't just have the 67 million who are not in school at the moment, but perhaps have an even higher figure of out-of-school children because of population changes and cuts in educational budgets, then that would be a betrayal of every promise that we've made. So what do you do about it? I think, first of all, you've got to be clear that we need to train more teachers. We're probably 1 million short of the teaching staffs we need around the world. I think we need public-private partnerships to build the schools, the classrooms that we need. I think we're a world where we put a man on the moon. We've been able to understand the human gene. We're looking for cures for some of the most awful diseases and finding them. There is no physical, technological, scientific barrier to getting a child into a classroom. It can be done.
Sub-Saharan Africa is facing the biggest regional challenge, with 10 million children forced to drop out of primary school every year. Concerning the access to education, there is a gap between the richest and the poorest, which is getting wider and wider. What's gone wrong?
We spend so little on the education of a sub-Saharan African child, on average $400 for all their education, compared with what we will spend for an American child, $100,000 for their education. This is such an unequal and unfair distribution of opportunities that really the world has a duty to come together and say, look, let's have a global fund for education. Let's make sure that those countries with plans to give educational opportunity to all can meet these targets. After all, the Dakar 1990 educational promise was that there would be no financial barrier to realizing the educational goals, that if there was a financial problem, we, the richest communities of the world, would make sure that education was available to the poorest.
School enrollment in Tanzania and East Africa is thought to have increased dramatically in the past few decades. But are children there progressing? In this report, we have a look at the work of an assessment body that aims to improve the quality of education where it is much needed.
Uwezo is a citizen-led movement working in Tanzania, India, Pakistan, Uganda and Kenya. It recruits volunteers to assess how children are doing in school and to what extent parents are getting involved. And it gives parents feedback on how to help their children. The focus is on the 3 R's. Volunteers are trained and they practice giving assessments before they go to visit their friends and neighbours.
I decided to volunteer because as a community member, I benefit as well, because I have children who go to school and grandchildren who will be starting school soon.
Rather than attempting to improve education by changing government policy, Uwezo aims to involve parents in their children's education. It also encourages community action.
I'm not satisfied with the level of education because most teachers teach for the sake of teaching and they expect parents to pay for extra evening classes. Parents like me can't afford the extra classes, which means their children don't get good exam results. I've learned a lot of things. I understand what level she is at and how I can help her progress.
These questions are important because they help me go in the right direction.
Uwezo believes that teachers should find their own solutions in the classroom rather than rely on government reforms.
What is your view of the 21st century school? Share your opinion with us on our social media pages. And don't forget, you can always visit the Learning World website for more from the world of education. That's it for this edition, but before we go, here's the result of our poll on classroom size. The majority of our social media visitors believe that the ideal size should be 20 pupils and that bigger classes should have more than one teacher. Goodbye for now.
Learning World in association with WISE, an initiative of Qatar Foundation.